was a nightmare.
I have a feeling something was wrong.
I had no idea what was going on.
The emergency room physician sounded scared.
I remember thinking that this could be okay or this could be terrible.
Anything and everything could have gone wrong at the time.
I told a mom today that her daughter was going to be okay, and I don't know if she is. It's a very dark day. Amélie! Amélie! Amélie was a joy. She was truly that missing puzzle that our family needed. The boys were so happy to have a sister.
I was excited when I found out we're about to have a little girl, but at the same time I was nervous. She was the ultimate girly girl.
It was so fun to deal with. Having a daughter was a breath of fresh air for me, so I really enjoyed it. I never thought I would see my joyful daughter, full of life, go from jumping, playing with her siblings, to limp and lifeless in the span of one day.
Flooding the dishwasher, my baby.
Ambulance dispatch for what town or city?
Ranger, Alberta. She's not breathing. She's having difficulty breathing right now, please.
Okay.
Please. Can I please have ambulance here right away?
They're on their way, okay? How old is she?
She's 16 months. 16 months. Please. Please, my baby.
Okay.
April 9th started off as any regular day. Amélie had been teething, but that morning she was in great spirits. So I didn't think anything otherwise, like, okay, I gave her some Tylenol, extra cuddles. She was playing with her brothers, and the day was proceeding as a normal day could go. I was loading the dishwasher. She was playing on the ground, and then she keeled over. At first I thought she was joking. Her body was stiff as a board. Her eyes were rolling to the back of her head. Blood was pouring profusely out of her nose. She was not here with me. And I remember putting her on our couch, and she just folded, completely limp, completely lifeless. I proceeded to grab her and run outside to ask my neighbors for help, banging on their door furiously while crying uncontrollably because I could really feel that she was losing consciousness, and I had no idea what was going on.
I remember that phone call coming in.
Just like every other day, I left my phone in my toolbox and
I was doing some paperwork, and then my coworker told me, it seems like it's an emergency, because it sounded like your wife was crying. So I went to the phone.
I was a little bit scared because I didn't get to talk to her.
The neighbor ended up talking to me, and then he told me to get home as soon as possible. There's been an accident.
When the ambulance finally did come, they started performing CPR. I remember this so vividly. She cried out, "Mommy."
One of the first things I remember was you guys coming in and Amelie being so little. And then I remember having to help you get into your PPE. It was literally like the beginning of the pandemic. I realized how distressed and distraught you were. And I remember hugging you and trying to get you to get it together a little bit so we could go into the room and so you could be with your daughter.
By the time I got here, the ambulance already left. So we just, our neighbor with my eldest son, Andwele, and the middle one, Nakim. We didn't talk till about maybe 15 or 20 minutes after I got home. We talked for maybe 2 minutes. Then you told me to bring you some stuff because you're already in the hospital, and then I still didn't know what was really going on.
I remember pretty clearly being called to see Amelie. The emergency room physician paged me, and he sounded scared. And he was like, I just need you here. And I was like, okay, I'll get in my car, I'm coming. You know, COVID had just started. We were all in the full precaution, so it just made things a little bit more difficult.
Because of the pandemic, it was only one parent allowed to be with Amélie, and it was extremely difficult not having Amélie's father be with me.
When I arrived in the hospital, I had to wait in the hallway because I still didn't know what was going on.
They were trying to start an IV, and she looked quite tired.
At the time, we didn't really know the whole story, but we did know that she had a foreign body in her upper airway because we could see it on an x-ray.
It's like a movie. I remember being behind the x-ray machine and both of the doctors were standing there and the image is loading. They put the image up and they're assessing and I could just see this big, and I was like, oh my God, like, what did she swallow?
We had ENT come in, basically just trying to put together a plan. And then all of a sudden she kind of sat up.
She vomited a large amount of blood.
It was dark red. We knew that was a pretty serious sign.
Oh, this is probably one of the most vivid memories I have of you. You were crawling around kind of on the floor, going through all the blankets, trying to figure out what she had swallowed. You wanted to know what it was.
Then Leslie came out crying, just bawling her eyes out.
And I was covered in blood.
It's bad, it's really bad. And I'm looking at her like, okay, now I'm getting scared.
I said, we need an IO to give medications immediately, fluids and whatnot, and just really making plans as quickly as we could.
I remember after we had to leave the operating room and I kind of explained to you what the next steps were. And then I remember you just looking at me and you said, I just need her to be dancing in my kitchen again. I said, she will. And I came home that night and it fell apart in my entryway with my husband. And I said, I told a mom today that her daughter was going to be okay and I don't know if she is.
We didn't know if Amélie had ingested a queen or a battery. The doctor came back, I don't know how long, everything felt like forever, to tell me that they were gonna have her transported to the Stollery by the Stollery Pediatric Ambulatory Team, which consists of a doctor, a nurse, and a respiratory therapist.
I was a bit scared. We were going essentially alone, and we were supposed to bring her back safe and sound, and I knew that there was very little equipment in the back of an ambulance to retrieve her. There were already some signs that something really serious was going on. Her blood level was less than half of what it should have been. I asked the team if we could bring some blood with us. I said, this blood that we're bringing in a box is probably just making us feel better about ourselves because it won't be enough.
There was a lot going on and I was kind of numb to it because I couldn't do anything.
But I still haven't seen her yet.
I remember Dr. Larson saying that this is how we're going to exit. Her father can come and see her.
I remember telling you both that we would take good care of her.
Even as he said that to me, I remember thinking, this might be the last time we see her alive.
In the back of the ambulance, everything went fine, and everyone's stress levels kind of came down. She seemed pretty stable. I even remember calling ahead and I said, she's not bleeding. If you want me to take her to the CAT scanner and get some pictures. And he said, no, just bring her to the ICU. We don't know how stable she'll be. Let's just be safe.
When we arrived at the Stollery, they informed us just one parent could go up to the ICU. When the charge nurse came to talk to me, she was calm and said, okay, we're aware of your daughter's case. They are on their way. They should be here shortly. Just have a seat right here. For that first time, I felt okay, you know, she's in good hands. I was scared. However, in my heart of hearts, I said, this is a coin. It's just going to be a scope situation.
We arrived in the ICU. The whole team was there to welcome us. As we moved her over onto her ICU bed, we must have dislodged something. She started to bleed, and she started to bleed a lot. I remember red blood pumping out of her nose and her mouth, and just thinking to myself, she must have a connection between her swallowing tube and her aorta, the major blood vessel in her body. There was no other way.
Things went from 0 to 100 in a matter of minutes. The chargers came running out, basically saying, you need to come with me. Your daughter's gone into cardiac arrest. That was the beginning of our nightmare. So I follow her into the ICU, see Amélie laying there, and there's a whole team of doctors.
And we were pushing the blood that we had brought with us as quickly as we could, and trying to get more up as quickly as we could.
It didn't seem real. It got real within seconds though, when I looked up and saw the monitor, and it was just flat. You don't have to have a medical degree to know that that means there's no sign of life. I'm asking them to let Astral come up. He has to see her.
That's when everything really clicked in. Watching her on that table, blood everywhere. Doctors, nurses, surgeons running around and
Grabbing staff. This is serious.
you were crying.
Tell us this, don't worry about the screen. Whatever's going on the screen, just ignore it. I was like, it's kind of hard to ignore flatline. There was like 2 or 3 nurses around me that were trying to block her from looking at it.
It looked like a scene from a movie, but it was our life.
There was a moment where the blood just seemed to stop all of a sudden.
They get a faint pulse.
The bleeding stopped. We had a bit more blood pressure.
And I've never been so happy to look at a screen and see lines up and down.
I think we were all a little bit panicked. Kind of took a deep breath and said to ourselves, this is really serious, but relieved that the bleeding had stopped.
It was such a short-lived celebration. As I'm saying, please don't let my baby die. Please don't let my baby die.
Just beep, went on again, and
She went into another cardiac arrest.
everyone just come running.
I remember feeling panicked and scared.
I saw one doctor look up at the clock, and they said to him, I'm like, they're gonna announce her time of death. After watching Amélie fight for her life, not knowing if she would be successfully resuscitated again or die, I knew that this wasn't a coin, this was a battery.
Usually in that situation, when you've lost so much blood that your heart stops and it doesn't even have any electrical activity, it's really hard to get it back.
Every doctor that could possibly help with the situation was called on.
We called Dr. Alaklabi, who is the cardiac surgeon. I remember him saying, Charles, this doesn't look good, but I just remember thinking, if we could stop the bleeding, then I think we've got a chance of getting her through this. By some miracle, we had once again managed to stop the bleeding, get some more blood back into her, and once he arrived, we had a discussion about what we were going to do, and it was clear that we were not going to get that button battery out unless we took her to the operating room and opened up her chest to find it.
Well, they took her away to do what they had to do, see if they can save her life. Then we had to sit in that room, in that waiting room, till the morning.
They were really struggling to see the button battery and to get it out. Every time they tried to take a look at it, she would lose massive amounts of blood. They couldn't get a good view of it, and even if they did, they didn't want to take it out without being careful of the structures around it. and with all the blood, they couldn't see anything.
Oh, this is so hard to listen to. Oh. Let me gather myself for a second. Sorry, Charlie.
With her heart pumping, she can lose all of that through a big hole in less than a minute.
We were in that room what felt like hours. I remember the sun coming up, and that was when the first knock came.
So when they came in that morning and they opened that door, my heart kind of dropped.
Each surgeon came in to let us know what part of the body they had worked on.
And he had to let all of the blood drain out of her body in order to be able to see where that hole was. Found it, and he found many other holes. He found holes between her esophagus and her trachea as well. And patched all of that up before giving her blood back, warming her up, and bringing her back to the ICU. I remember he said she had bled so much that her lungs were full of her blood, her stomach was full of her blood, and her body wasn't working properly at the end of the surgery. And so she came back on full life support.
And then when they gave us the news that she's stable, but still critical, and I was like, phew.
Told us it was now a waiting game to see how she would recover.
She was the only one allowed to go in, so I had to just see her via video call and pictures.
We were absolutely not prepared for what we saw.
She swelled right up, just swollen, just shiny. It looks like just filled with water.
She did not look like our child.
And she was like that for a couple days.
For some strange reason, we thought she'd be awake, but she was still heavily sedated. We were already traversing such a traumatic situation, and then compounded by the stress of COVID.
And I kept thinking how horrible it must have been for your husband.
I wasn't allowed to go in there. There was a lot of new rules, new regulations. People didn't really know what's going on yet, so the hospital had to follow those rules.
Even when she got out of surgery, that was an extremely long night to make sure that I was COVID negative and that she was COVID negative. It was a nightmare. While Amelie was in ICU, the first few days she was on ECMO. And I remember the build-up because they hadn't fully closed the opening to her heart. They needed to make sure that she could breathe and her body was doing what it needed to do on its own. ICU life with her was interesting.
Sometimes I would drop her off around 8 a.m. and she'd be in the hospital. She's till like 10, maybe 11 p.m. Then we go home, grab something to eat on the way home, shower, and then repeat. We do that on and on and on. There was far enough corner in the parking lot when I parked there, she can actually wave. I can see the window where they were. I'll keep my phone on, and then once in a while, like every hour or so, she'll call me and let me know what's going on. Okay, this is what the doctor did. This is what the nurses did. She'll video call me to show me what's going on. But every time she make that phone call, my heart would skip a bit because I don't know what she's gonna say. Anything and everything could have gone wrong at a time.
Because of the pandemic, we were not allowed to spend the night. So that was extremely difficult on us. But I remember it being a great day when they had changed some of the rules so that her dad could actually spend a day with her.
Once we were allowed to do that, it was a lot easier for me mentally to deal with.
I feel like for every positive news that we got, we took 3 steps back. When the cardiologist came out and said, she's off ECMO, he was so jubilant and we were so excited. Only for the next day for them to tell us that it looked like she had suffered a stroke. It was just so touch and go. We were just there day in, day out, slowly as she started to make progression. We would celebrate any milestone that we could. Miraculously, she only did 13 days in ICU, and I remember they were going to see if she could breathe on her own.
I was getting excited because it was a big move. She's no longer going to be in ICU. She's now being moved to outpatients. Like, oh, okay.
I just remember being so grateful that her dad could be there that day because I just didn't have the mental capacity to deal if something went wrong.
They didn't know what was going to happen once they stopped that machine.
Thank God she was able to breathe on her own. Amélie was discharged from ICU, although we knew it was going to be a long road to recovery. The first week was a nightmare. We didn't know she'd have to go back to ICU because she started having issues within her chest. She had a long and tough road to recover before we were able to go home. I just remember being so isolated. Although we could both be in the hospital, we couldn't be there at the same time. So we would basically have shifts where I do one night, her dad would do another night. However, grateful that we were able to be right at her bedside. She would have night terrors almost and just wake up screaming and crying, just petrified. It's not typical that an 18-month-old child has that kind of damage. We just didn't know what her cognitive and physical abilities would be. The Stollery provided amazing rehab for her. She had intensive occupational therapy, intensive physiotherapy.
Her skills didn't quite match her age, so we tried to find out from you what she enjoyed to do and what she wanted to do.
They would bring toys and mats and everything into our room just to make our stay feel that much more comfortable.
I think the pandemic threw lots of curveballs.
With an 18-month-old child who is in an unknown space around people she does not know.
We had to wear a mask all the time with Amelie, and so she didn't get to see half of our faces. And then having to convince a little girl that she wants to play with us and stand up and reach for things when she doesn't know what's going on.
She can't really interact with them. And sometimes when they're coming in, it's to give her medication, and those needles, they hurt. So she associated them with fear.
We didn't get to see all the skills that she was achieving because she was scared and she was nervous, and it was a lot for her. We had to work on her sitting again, and her rolling again, and her getting up from the floor. Probably the biggest thing during the pandemic was that you couldn't have families in the hospital anymore, and that was, I know, a burden for families, but it was hard for staff as well.
Couldn't have family and friends just coming to visit with familiar faces that she knew.
It's better for kids to have their families with them. They are more motivated to work for their siblings and to do things for their parents, and just to increase how comfortable they are with an extended stay such as Amelie's was.
Say hi, aunties. No? Okay. Amélie had to learn how to sit, how to stand. Monte chérie, tu peux les faire, tu peux les faire. Yes! Amé, bravo chérie. Bravo chérie. Good job, Mama. High five. High five. Yes.
That was something that we needed to work on. We could do that all through play.
So I had little dance parties with her in her hospital room when she was finally able to stand. Miraculously, she started moving the right side of her body again. The Stollery became home, and, you know, we just made the best of it. The nurses were amazing. At one point, they're like, you should decorate her room. And they printed off some pictures for me, and the nurses came and plastered pictures of her around her room.
It was actually pretty great just to watch her being herself again. Never watched Mickey Mouse so much in my life. I watched a lot of Mickey Mouse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
There's a characteristic sign on an X-ray that helps you distinguish a button battery from something else like a coin that might be the same size and shape, called a halo. It's kind of two rings very closely together on the outside of the item that's on the X-ray.
But I didn't want to believe that it was a battery.
There's a dark ring, so you can see the shape, and the inside is that dark ring. So that's that halo sign.
we never thought that a battery could have done the amount of damage that it did to Amelie.
You get to see firsthand is really the dangers of button batteries.
I remember getting home, and it was 4 or 4:30 in the morning. I'd been up for 24 hours, and I didn't go to bed. I went around the house. I found everything with a button battery, and I either threw it away or put it out of reach.
I look at a lot of toys differently now. Like, I don't look, before, a battery was just a battery to me. It's a battery, throw it on the counter, and I remember I'll take it to work, we'll, dispose of it.
We care about every patient we take care of, but somehow I could just relate to what you'd gone through on a more personal level.
But I will never forget that hug you gave me. It will stick with me forever. At that moment, I felt completely helpless, but it was just such a human connection for me that I truly think set the tone for me as I interacted with the rest of the medical staff along her journey.
I'm not going to say I didn't care that it was a pandemic, but I think what I learned from that is that doing the things that you know are going to help in the moment is what's important. I try to connect with my patients and my patients' family, but you guys were very special to me, and you always will be. I'll never forget that.
I remember it affecting me quite a lot.
After I sent you guys on your way,
Like, I didn't know what happened to her after she left, and I thought she had died.
and I heard what happened,
15 minutes of them
Yeah.
arriving.
she started to bleed out. She had a massive
She coded.
hemorrhage, yes,
Mhm.
and I just got chills thinking that she
Twice.
got there just in time.
You made the right call. I mean, I know every day I talk about what a miracle she is, but it's like, I wish the sun knew what. She suffered so much. Hearing you recount, it's like I've almost waited this whole time to say it to you, and I didn't know when I could, but I remember just thinking when she was coding, and I remember watching, it was crazy. There's so much I don't remember, but I remember just seeing everybody just give a damn to try to save her life. I just want to say thank you, because I know so many doctors will say, this is my job, it's what we do. But I really saw the love and passion each and every one of you. It's almost like when they saw you go forward, your whole team also jumped in and did everything to save our little girl's life, and I'm eternally, eternally grateful. Merci au fond de mon cœur.
Don't know how, but you did it. Made a way. Standing here. Not knowing how we'll
Amélie. Amélie. Aduh, berapa? Oh.
Having to come home and deal with the after effect of what happened, that's probably the hardest part, and I'm still working on it. I literally sleep with her monitor right next to my head. I can't sleep unless I go and check on her.
Amélie's incident has forever impacted my life. It's forever changed me to cherish my times with loved ones, while also emboldening me to raise awareness on battery safety.
As a father, I'm extremely grateful, full of joy that she pulled through. She's around, she's growing, she gets to play with her brothers. Amelie's a lot of joy to be around. She can be a handful sometimes, but Amelie is a lot of joy to be around. So to see her still dancing and playing, and she loves making all kind of weird facial reaction to things she likes. So her little attitude kick in, but I'm very grateful and very happy that she pulled through.
I deal with a teenager now, a feisty one at that, but I truthfully wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm so glad she was back dancing in your kitchen.
The doctors could have done everything right, but without blood donors, Amélie would have died.
For more information about how you can support Canada's Lifeline, I'd encourage you to visit our website, blood.ca, download the Give Blood app, or call our contact center that is operational 24/7 at 1-888-236-6283.